Good evening and welcome to Introduction to the British Monarchy here at East Malibu Community College. I am your instructor, F. Rudolph Kalashnikov. My surfer buddies call me Fruity. You can call me Professor Fruity or Fruit Man or Bra or Do, just whatever you do, please don't call me Professor Kalashnikov, okay? The administration really frowns on it. It implies that I have a degree. Okay, so I'm not a really big fan of, teaching, per se. Especially since most of this stuff is available on Wikipedia and IMDb. So what I've done is I've broken it all down into a little presentation for you. It's like 5 minutes long. It's everything you need to know. And I was thinking if someone had one of those phones with a camera on it, you could videotape it, and then you could upload it for everyone else, and then everyone else could just spend the next 9 weeks memorizing it, or I guess you could refer to the video while you take the final. I don't know. Now I will like it. All right. So does anybody have a phone with? Oh wow. Oh, okay. All right. All right. Well, I guess we'll get started then. I need someone to turn out the lights. Is there an app for that? Thank you. Okay. We begin back in 1066 with Michael Gambone as William the Conqueror. He begat Peter Firth as William II, who begat Clive Wood as Henry I, who begat Tony Curran as Stephen, the Only. Did you know there was like a King Steve of England? Well, there was. He begat Peter O'Toole as Henry II, who lay with Catherine Hepburn and begot Anthony Hopkins and Nigel Carey as 15 John, who begot Henry III, about whom we know very little because there have been no movies made about him. But we do know that he begot Patrick McGowan as Edward I in Braveheart, who begot Ian McKellen as Edward II, who begot Edward III, who was grandfather to Richard II, also played by Ian McKellen, and Gareth Jacobi, and, believe it or not, David Burney. I know. So he was succeeded by his cousin, Henry IV, played by John Gielgud and Paul Schofield. We got Henry V, played by Laurence Olivier and Kenneth Branagh. Henry V begot Henry VI, played by David Warner, who was succeeded by his cousin, Cedric Hardwicke, as Edward IV, who begot Hugh James as Edward V, who was succeeded by Richard III, played by Laurence Olivier, who lost his throne in battle to Jaws Acklin as Henry VII. That lost his throne in battle thing, that's the last time that ever happened, and they ask that all the time on Jeopardy. So anyway, Henry VII begot Henry VIII, one of the most popular and beloved monarchs in British history, having been played by Charles Laughton, Richard Burton, Eric Bana, and Jonathan Rhys-Meyers. Kind of a Benjamin Button thing happening there, huh?
Yeah.
Anyway, Henry VIII begot Jason Kemp as Edward VI, who was succeeded for 9 days by his cousin, Helena Lady Jane Bonham Carter, and then by his sister, Glenys Johns as Mary. Now, to continue, I have to back up to Henry. If you know anything at all about English history, you know that Richard Burton dumped Irene Pappas to get with Jean-Pierre Bujold, who Elizabeth, or Betty Davis, Laura Robeson, Linda Jackson, Judy Dench, Anyway, Elizabeth was the virgin queen, meaning in her whole life she never begot any. Careful with that joke, it's an antique. So after her, they had to switch houses to the House of Stuart, specifically James Stuart, the king, not the actor, I should make that clear. Here he is played by Jeremy Irons, who begot Alec Guinness as Charles I. Now, Charles I begot Charles II and James II, but before either of them could ascend the throne, Britain just stopped being a monarchy for 5 or 6 years and became a commonwealth, during which they were managed by the Cromwell brothers of Huntingdon in East Anglia. And then they went back to being a monarchy. That's what I love about English history. It's so stupid. Anyway, James II begot Mary II, who ruled with and was succeeded by her husband and first cousin, William III, played by Laurence Olivier. Now, what's interesting about William and Mary is that they were first cousins. They were husband and wife. They were co-rulers of the English Empire, and yet they were never in the same movie. William was succeeded by his sister-in-law, Anne, played by Angela Lansbury in The Three Musketeers, and Sheena Easton in Four Musketeers and a Baby. Look it up. Anne had 4 children, so she was succeeded by her cousin George, played by Eric Pullman and Rob Roy, who begot Richard Harris as George II, who begot crazy Nigel Hawthorne as George III, who begot lazy Rupert Everett as George IV, who was succeeded by his brother Jim Broadbent as William IV. Jim Broadbent was succeeded by his niece, Emily Blunt, as the young Victoria, and then later by Judi Dench as Mrs. Brown. Now, as we come into the 20th century, we've come full circle, because who do we find as Edward VII, Victoria's son and heir? It's Michael Gambon again. That's 1,000 years of British monarchy with Michael Gambon at both ends. And just for good measure, he plays his own son, George V, who begot, as you may recall, Guy Pearce and Colin Firth. Guy Pearce, of course, abdicated to get with Billy Richardson, paving the way for Colin Firth's Oscar as Best Actor. And of course, Colin Firth and Helena Bonham Carter begot Helen Mirren. God save Helen Mirren. I have been played by David Stamford, who thanks you.